This week's Local Focus brings in my friend Austin Denton. Austin, thanks for joining us. If you don't know it, this guy actually has the best resume in the building. So we're going to get to a lot of that today. And obviously what's freshest on everyone's mind is the NFL draft. So talk about that, the experience.
Oh, it was an amazing experience. I mean, just even being out there in Dallas and just getting to experience everything that was going on with the draft, and just seeing everything from AT&T Stadium to the NFL fan experience that was outside the stadium, and just getting to be there overall and just see everything that they had to offer was overall a great experience all the way up to the draft pick itself.
So how did that experience first materialize itself? When did you get that call or email, or who made that call, who made that email to you? Talk about how it materialized, and obviously your initial response had to be pretty exciting.
Absolutely, and this was something that was months in the making. I got the call about 3 months before the actual pick was going to happen, the actual draft was going to happen. And at first they had said that they wanted me to do a pick for the Broncos, and they weren't quite sure which pick it was yet. And I knew that for St. Jude patients, they usually announce picks during the second and third rounds, during those later rounds, but still was in a primetime spotlight. But what I didn't realize was that they had something else in store for me, and that was to announce the first overall draft pick for them, the first overall for the Broncos, 5th overall in the draft. So they continue to work on that in the coming months, and then about a month before, I get another call saying they finalized it, they want you to do the first overall pick. And then that's when it really started gaining popularity. That's when the NFL Network said, okay, we want to do an exclusive announcement on our show. Hey, we want to do this story. Hey, we want to do this. So this is, it just started to materialize over time, and finally just led up to the day that the pick was announced, and the rest is history.
And you mentioned obviously the draft is more than just a day process, you know, and it's a very fan-centric, week-long activity. Talk about your itinerary basically during that week.
So that week it was just TV appearances before I made an appearance.
Just TV appearances, huh? Yeah, because those are normal. Don't we all get those?
And I made a TV appearance first on Good Morning Football with the NFL Network that morning before the draft, and then I got to check out AT&T Stadium, just kind of get a little bit of a tour before the fans started, flooding in and taking over the rest of the draft. So we just went to the fan experience right before we entered into the draft, and I also was able to attend the NFL red carpet, which is where the players and the coaches that were in attendance that night were going to be walking the red carpet and would take interviews from the media, say hi to the fans that were able to get red carpet passes. And so I was able to interview names and faces like Shaquem Griffin from UCF, Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, both of them coaches, Scott Frost, the new Nebraska coach, just a few of the names that were coming along the red carpet, and were out there and experiencing it all, and I got the chance to talk to them.
Josh, can you come in here and pick up all these names he dropped? This guy gets to drop names like nobody else's business. So you led right into my next question. So that's when you got to interview Nick Saban. Talk about that. What kind of guy was? Is he as intense as he appears?
Yeah, he did. He kind of does have that blank expression. He usually is serious, and but he was really cool and kind enough to take the time to talk to me and have an interview with me. And he's really a down-to-earth guy. He's as great as people say he is, and it was just a great interview that I was able to talk to him about what their plans were for next season to potentially repeat as national champions, and just to talk about the kind of success that he's had at Alabama, and just overall his coaching career. And it's just nice because those are the little moments that really count, and just to be able to talk to him even briefly for just 3 or 4 minutes and move on to the next media interview or whatever obligations that he had, just for him to be able to take the time out of his experience there to talk to me was a great feeling.
Now I've gotten to know you a little bit, so I know if you were going to announce the Broncos pick, as soon as that happened, you probably researched every mock draft there was. you probably wanted to know who that pick was well before you did. Talk about just the prep. I know you, so.
Well, I was just making sure that I was watching every little NFL broadcast that there was, or any mock drafts that were coming out. And it's like most of those NFL personalities asked me, you know, who do you think they're going to pick? Even my friends at school were asking me, who do you think they're going to pick? And really the two names that I saw coming out of the majority of those mock drafts was either a quarterback, which was going to be either Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, or Bradley Chubb if he was still out there on the board. And so I feel like that Bradley Chubb was a name that was sporadically thrown in there, but wasn't like the main focus, because more fans like to look at the quarterbacks and see if they were going to pick up a quarterback. So when we got to draft day and we knew that after the first 4 picks were done and the Browns had just picked Denzel Ward, and I realized I had that thought in the back of my mind, wait, Bradley Chubb's still on the board. And so right as we're getting prepped to go to the draft, go out there onto the stage and make the pick, the producer comes back behind Commissioner Goodell as I'm standing next to Commissioner Goodell and says, Bradley Chubb's celebrating, but we haven't gotten the card yet. And then that thought pops in the back of my mind saying, that's it, it's going to be Chubb.
See, that's the kind of stuff we don't get the privilege of knowing about. So you mentioned the commissioner. What is your take on the commissioner?
He's a cool guy. I mean, just being able to hang out with him in his green room and to be able to just have a conversation with him. I mean, we had a conversation like we had known each other for 15 years prior. It was a great thing just to, you know, be able to talk with him and just talk football in general, and see the other people that visited him in his green room. We had briefly saw Jason Witten's wife and kids back there in the green room, and I mean, just to be able to be back there and just hanging with him overall was super fun.
All right, so reactions when you got back. I know your dad showed me a picture, so his reaction was that you have the biggest hands on the planet on TV, right? Because he showed me that one picture. But what were the reactions from some of your friends at school and your family?
They were obviously just super ecstatic. I mean, they always are saying, oh, I'm so glad to know you, and all these things. And I even had people approaching me right as I rolled out of the gate at the airport to come back to Albuquerque. They're like, wait, aren't you the kid that just made the pick? I got stopped everywhere at the Albuquerque
So you're basically
airport.
the Beatles at the airport, is what you're saying, right?
I guess, if you want to go with that.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and just it's so funny because you never think that many people could see that broadcast, and you hear the numbers, you know, 35 million or whatever the number was of people watching the draft, and then you're thinking, oh, you know, that's a big number, but then you realize how local it can get, and you're thinking to yourself as these people are approaching you, wow, a lot of people locally were watching. So that's kind of another one of those things that you're just like, oh wow, that actually happened.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it to you, and I know a lot of people get into the draft, but the fact that it's such a long process, the NFL draft is one of the ones that maybe some people don't watch. I know personally I usually don't. But so this funny story, the bar that I was at watching it, there was literally a crowd of people just kind of watching, waiting for that kid from Albuquerque to announce the pick. So, I mean, obviously that's got to be a pretty special memory when you look back on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I get all these stories from all of my friends and from some of my parents' friends and some of my grandmother's friends, or all my family friends that are like, oh, we were at this restaurant and everybody was huddled around the TV, or then we turned and realized, oh yeah, I know that guy. So it's funny because they have it at all these bars and restaurants and all these different places, and they're just waiting to watch it happen. And that's something that, you know, humbles me, because it's an awesome feeling to know that they were waiting to see that happen, and they were excited to just even watch me, which it's humbling for myself.
And pretty special for St. Jude to make all this possible, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. St. Jude I can't thank them enough for everything that they've done for me, whether it was the cancer research that they've done for me, or the treatment when I was younger, and all these opportunities that I've gotten here in the later years with their partnership with the NFL. I mean, it's everything that they do there is heaven on earth.
So when we catch up with Austin in week 2 of our interview next week, we'll kind of go back and step back to his childhood. And it wasn't always glitz and glamour at the NFL draft. And we'll ask Austin if there was ever days where he wouldn't just trade it all in to not have some of the difficulties that he had growing up. We'll touch on that next week here on Local Focus.